Welcome to Latinas from the block to the boardroom, where wisdom comes from everywhere. This is a podcast about generational wisdom shared to help build a bridge for future generations and to build stronger communities through education, technology, and health. Welcome to Latinas from the block to the boardroom. Yes, thank you. It's a privilege to be here, and thank you for all coming. So the stories coming from Latinas, we're usually overlooked, or the narrative, I say, that's being dominated through media and technology is often one that is not seen as successful or not seen as owning our own narrative. In the last panel, when we talk about AI, I was in tech for just 20 years, and I was always continuously seeing myself as the only Latina due to code switching or, only being curious. But I thought California has a population of about 40% Latinos, and what is the ratio of Latinas or people of color in tech? It's not very much, but we do have successful Latinas that are building platforms, that are building and owning businesses, and they're also becoming big champion change makers in community through nonprofits. Yet we don't see them, and especially when you search for them through the internet. And in the last panel, as we said, when you put in Latinas in the search term, I said, why is it that this information is not being seen as a business owner, as someone that is a leader or that is successful? Instead, we saw what the generative AI would give us. So these are the stories. I said, well, we need to tell these stories so that the content gets fed through the interwebs, through audio, through our phones, through all the media that we share, so that they can come to the next generation that we are here, we exist. And not only that, but to own their history and the stories, that we can be confident, we can have candor, and we can also be courageous. Anybody can podcast, right? That's what I say. But if you want to get funded for the long game, that's a harder journey. And anybody can fund my podcast right now if you like. There's cue cards on the table. So go ahead if you feel free to sponsor me. But the access to capital is risk aversion, right? There's a lot of brands that don't want to take the risk in content that is by change makers, that are bringing up the truth, that are bringing up stories, that are presenting the opposite side of the stories that are being told today. So my experience has been when brands come to me, or how do we get funded, as in the previous panels, early in the sports panel, does it align to what the podcast or what my values and mission are for these stories? And that's a big deal, because a lot of people will say, oh, here's some money, let's do this deal. And it's really hard when you're looking for funding in the community that you're supporting. And I'll give you an example. Spotify, sorry if there's any Spotify folks out there, but Spotify, I have no control over the advertising across my podcast. So if I am, which I do talk about health equity, I talk about communities that are trying to strive and build things, and to be healthy in education as well, and to have access to education, you'll get commercials across my podcast for McDonald's or Doritos or things like that, and I have no control over that. So ownership of the content across these platforms is very, this is where we're going into having media access being owned by you and distributing it. So in the first panel, they were talking about how more people of color could create platforms for owning their media and their content so that they can collaborate. And this is what I'm trying to do, is an ecosystem so that we can fund each other through these narratives, through our products and services, through our communities, because Spotify is not going to give me, unless I'm Joe Rogan, and when's that going to happen, right? The accessibility to say who and what can be on my podcast, or if I'm with a big network where I can actually say that. But is that the goal for us, is to go to a big network where we don't have ownership and licensing of our content, That's not what I'm trying to do. And saying no is power as well. So when you say no, you're not saying no to like, I don't want this. You're saying no, I am worth it and I deserve better. Yeah. Sure. So when I was saying the no, it's really aligning. And yes, you want to get to yes. So when I bring in the Latinas, but also community allies, we're looking at how we can build, our voices together. So the impact goes that, hey, we share grit. We've come from, some very hard places. A lot of us are multi-generational here. And how do we build a narrative that's going to say we share a similar experience, but how do we grow that opportunity together? So that's the yes part, and that's where the vision and the alignment come in to that. So the women and the community allies that I interview, we're on a mission to say we are breaking the cycles from the block and trying to get into the boardroom. And that's what we're trying to do with telling the story of how we were courageous and how we build the confidence. And so the impact is for the generations that are coming behind us that are listening, because these are intergenerational conversations, is that it's okay to be a risk taker. It's okay to fail. It's okay to not be perfect, because that's sometimes the lens we're put under. So when they hear that and they hear these women that are, that are breaking those cycles, they're able to stand into that confidence that they need to move forward.